right. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I've been following along with some of your earlier webinars, and you've really been pulling together a quality group of sessions. There's so much great information, so lots of hard acts to follow, but I hope that I can add some value today. I am a social media evangelist. I love social media, even though my job title is content director at Interact. So I work across all aspects of content. And as Anton mentioned, Interact is a marketing agency in Houston, Texas, and we specialize in marketing SaaS companies, which are software as a service, if you're not familiar. And there's a large variety of different types of SaaS companies, ranging from everything from security to marketing automation, anything you can think of that can be run through a software. So it's a really interesting, exciting area to work in. And I've been doing it for less than a year now, but I'm loving it. I come from the higher education space, actually, so have worked in niche spaces for quite some time. And I've spoken on particularly social media and content marketing, blogging, and other topics around the U.S. And I've been published in Search Engine Journal and UMoz, which is actually, I think, how Anton came across me. And I'm also a board member of a local interactive marketing association in Texas called the Houston IMA. And I actually co-chair with another chair the career fair. So I'm working on getting that set for the beginning of the year to help young people and people earlier in their career find jobs in digital marketing. So today I'm here to talk to you about social media. And this is a big question that small businesses have. It's exciting, you know, it's free. Everybody jumped on the bandwagon when it first became a possibility for businesses to market. It's an easy way to get your brand out there. But some of the most common questions I get from small businesses is, there's so many options. Where should I be spending my time? Especially if you're a small business owner or if you're a social media manager for a small company. There's only so much you can do. You don't have a full suite of a team at your disposal to answer every little interaction, get on top of everything. And so where should you be spending your time? And it takes a lot of time to be personal, to really put your energy into it. So how do you know when those efforts are making a difference and if you're actually getting a return on those efforts? And it's easy to come up with metrics like Facebook likes. Those things maybe at the beginning were interesting to your boss or to you if you're the owner. How many people were you able to get to like your Facebook page? How many likes are you getting on your post? How many retweets are you getting? It's kind of exciting at the beginning to see those types of metrics coming through, but drilling down to how that's actually impacting your business starts to become an important question and something you should be asking. So I'm going to be going over today how to do that. The most important thing is you need to plan for your results from the beginning. So start thinking about what you want out of your interactions at the beginning and plan for that all the way through your social media plan and strategy. And that's something, so we work with a lot of startups, and really that's something that you have to think about with all of your marketing work. At the beginning, you're just flying at the seat of your pants, getting things out. You're making posts that you want them to be personal. You're reading the blogs about what is the best practices and how can you make an impact, but you're not thinking about the end result, perhaps if that's getting more customers, getting more leads for customers, whatever your metric is of success. And so there's really two ways that you can do social media, organic and paid. And organic social media is mostly about public relations, building relationships, and building your brand. And that's where that's where it starts to get a little tricky, because there are definitely ways that you can track your organic social media efforts to a profit, to a bottom line, which is what I'm going to go through today. But there's all of these intangible benefits that are harder to track. How do you track the value of growing your brand specifically to a number, which is something that PR agencies have kind of tried to get their brain around for many, many years, since the beginning of PR. And I've seen a lot of metrics about, there's points that are attributed to certain brand reach and different tactics like that. But if any of you come from digital marketing like I do, I like quantifiable data. I like to really see exactly how many visitors came, where did they come from. I want to drill down to real numbers. And so that was always a little bit hard for me at the beginning with organic social media, is also keeping in mind that intangible benefit and trying to balance both of those. And so when you're going back to your supervisor, whoever that may be, and proving the benefit, while those likes and reach and new followers are valuable, what they're going to want to see at the end of the day is, well, what are you doing for profit? And so paid social media really is, that's what it's about. It's about getting to profit. And so it kind of may seem counterintuitive, because I work for an inbound marketing agency. And if you are not familiar, inbound, the philosophy is to pull clients in with organic content. There's a lot of work in SEO, blogging, organic tactics for building traffic and reach. But really, in this day and age where we are, you have to pay along with. You have to have strategies along with. And all of these efforts in digital marketing should all go together, and they shouldn't be in a silo. So both of these types of social media efforts are important, but for different reasons, as I've kind of been walking through. So organic, you can't do social media without organic efforts. You have to have that in there, but you also should be filtering in your work and making time for paid, so that you can boost, pardon me, I have a little bit of a cough, so that you can boost your organic efforts and all of your other blogging and content strategies with paid strategies, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So we'll start with organic social media, where to focus and how to measure the value of those efforts, and then we'll work into some of the paid social media platforms, how to choose those options, and how to measure return on those options. And the most important thing to start off with before we really even get into the metrics is knowing your customer, which is something that I've seen a lot of people talk about even in these webinars. You probably hear, if you've been reading blogs about digital marketing over and over and over, personas, target market, however the different writer that you're reading at that time calls it, it all means the same thing, that you need to build out accurate, detailed representations of your audience. And that really just comes down to understanding what's important to them, what their motivators are, what their values are, what their fears are. And if you know that, you can start talking to them on a level that's going to matter to them. How can you write a personal social media post if you don't know what's important to the people that you're posting to? You wouldn't start a conversation with a friend trying to help them with a problem if you didn't know any details behind the problem. You're not going to be adding much value. So make sure that you're taking the time to build out accurate personas and conducting quantitative and qualitative research ahead of time for that. So survey your customers, create gated content to your website where you can ask them little snippets of information at a time, analyze their social behavior, go in and look and see if you see people engaging with your brand, you can go in and look and see how they're acting in other spaces. What are they talking about in forums? What's important to them? How are they talking to their friends on social media? Pull out the type of language that they're using. What type of movies are they engaging with? What are they talking about? When are they online? All of those things that are really important. And you can even use some third-party data aggregators if you have a full, robust email list to match what they have for data against your own. And then divide those results into persona buckets. I recommend between 3 and 7. If you have more than that, you're going to start losing valuable information. And if you have less than that, probably you're not segmenting it far enough, depending on how niche your product is. It's very possible that you have a very niche product that is really just targeting a very specific, 16 to 20-year-old female, whatever it is. And then maybe you really do have this one persona. But in most cases, you're going to fall in that 3 to 7 range. And then, as I said, make them really personal and detailed, and tell a story with that persona. Make sure that when you look at that and after you're done building it out, you would be able to pick that person out at the store. You'd be able, if you're out for dinner, you can see your persona when they're sitting across from you. You know exactly who that person is. So here are some of the frameworks that when you're building out your persona, you should include. And I've added a section here for social behavior because what we're talking about today is social media. And that's one thing that I think gets left off on these persona charts a lot. And it's something that if you're really trying to be accurate in your digital marketing, particularly your social media, you should be thinking about how they are on social media. Is this particular persona an information seeker? Do they want you to share informative pieces of content? Do they want you to share something that's going to help them grow and learn more about the product ahead of time? Or are they really just are they a fan? Are they looking to see, gosh, you're so great and I want to support you, I want to retweet you? Because those are the type of people you want to be targeting. So when you see a fan or an influencer persona, that's really where you're going to want to focus your social media efforts, and you'll want to take all of that great information that you did in your research and fill that into your social media posts. Use the language that you found that they were using in a way that's authentic for your brand, which I'll talk about. And make sure that when we get down to the paid section, you can start targeting on those demographics. But I'm getting ahead of myself, and I'll talk about that a little more in a bit. So once you know your customer on this personal level, you've built out their profile, you know exactly what's important to them, you know their values and their fears, what they're trying to learn, what they're trying to grow on, what's going to help them make decisions, you're able to communicate with them. And that's really what social media is about. Social media is a communication platform. It's for facilitating communication between friends, between people, and between people and businesses. And it works when businesses are behaving in that same way, in the way that a person would behave. And so this is one of my personal favorite brands, and I probably fit right into one of their persona buckets. But this is a company called Anthropologie, which makes women's clothes. And so they always do an excellent job with their Instagram posts, and they speak in a way that speaks right to me. So we're so very excited about Cozy Accessories. Mittens up if you agree. See, it's a little punny. They make jokes, and it's cute. It's obviously there are, if they were targeting someone else, they might look at this and say, this is silly, but this is written right to me. It's something that I'm going to relate to and think, ooh, look at these cute mittens. So it's important to understand the language, but as I mentioned, make it authentic to your brand. So Anthropologie does a really good job of pulling that language in a way that feels like the brand would talk that way. But this is something that happened really a lot when the term "they" was popularized by music. You started to see brands come out saying, "Oh, that's great! I'm going to talk like the millennials are talking," and trying to make tweets, make me helper and I'll make you my bae. You know, and it kind of came off as a little authentic in who's sending out your tweets, and is that really how Hamburger Helper would talk, and am I really going to make someone my bae for making me Hamburger Helper? There's so many questions that come of this, and so I guess my point is just be authentic. Don't take it too far. Don't while you're using language that is resonating with your audience, it has to be in a way that's authentic. And perhaps there's certainly a case, I think, where this could have worked, but it's in this particular way, it just comes off as forced. Or worse, it can insult people, which this is the FAFSA, if you're not familiar, is a government, it's a U.S. government association, and they were really trying their best to reach their young demographic. What this group does is they help, they offer aid for going to college for students. So their target demographic would be high school students who love sharing memes, right? They'll share them all over the internet. We talk in emojis. Everything is visual, and so memes speak in a way that speaks to them. But obviously, this was very insensitive. People are filling out for federal student aid aren't necessarily in any particular situation, or if they are, it's not a way that they wouldn't want to be talked to in an insensitive way from the group that's to be helping them. So just make sure that you're really thinking through all of that when you're planning on speaking on their level. Just a few disclaimers. While it's very valuable to speak in a way, and it's good to be funny, and in certain situations, this could have been a very funny meme, potentially. This is not the right place or the right time. Communication is imperative to social media. So as I've been saying all along, these platforms are designed for social communication. They're designed for interaction. Relationships are a two-way street. So if you want your followers to feel like they want to connect with you, you need to connect back with them first. They're taking the time to learn about you, to maybe purchase your product, to invest themselves in your brand. So you should be taking some time to learn about them back. Who are they? What makes them tick? And what's gonna make them see that you appreciate them? And that means being a good listener and striving for those agile response times as best as you can, depending on the size of your team. It can get harder, but there's lots of different tools you can use to help simplify that. Some of them are free, like Hootsuite, and some of them are on the more premium end, like HubSpot. But it will help you continue that conversation across your modalities, and build further and further relationships. So once you know your customer on that personal level, now you are at a point where you can align their needs with your goals. So once you understand what's going to motivate them, you will understand you can start mapping it to what's going to help you, and hopefully, as we'll walk through, you can drive those goals towards your your bottom line. Oh, it looks like someone's having trouble hearing. Is anybody else having trouble hearing? Okay, so I'm not sure if perhaps there's just an issue. Maybe if you log out and log back in, it looks like sound is working in other places. Okay, so I'll move forward. So for organic social media, you want to set SMART goals, which is an acronym that's been around in business for a long time. It's that SMART, measurable, accurate, realistic, and timely. And, or I'm sorry, attainable, realistic, and timely. And that attainable is very important, actually, and we'll get to that in a minute. And so that setting those goals are, I'll walk through specifically how all of those apply to social media, and make sure that it's a goal that you can meet and tie it to your bottom line. And then you want to go at the end and measure your results to see how your efforts are working. But as I mentioned at the beginning, be comfortable with social media, with organic social media, that you're only getting part of the story when you're tying your social media efforts to a profit goal. So you are going to start getting valuable information about how your social media efforts are tying into your bottom line, but there's still those intangible benefits. There's still the brand building and reputation management, and that can't really be measured precisely in that way. So this is something that I actually thought of watching. I have a 3-year-old son, as you saw in the beginning of the pictures, and one of his favorite shows is about dinosaurs that love science. And I was thinking that this is, we learned about the scientific method in high school or even middle school probably, and it really applies really well to social media. And when you walk through each of these steps, it helps you get to exactly that place that I've been talking about of aligning your strategies to your goals. So you start with a purpose, asking a question. And this is advice that you'll get almost in any digital media effort. If you're going into Google Analytics, which can be really overwhelming, you want to start by asking the question that you're trying to find the answer to, so that you can focus your time in looking in that data. And the same thing is true for social media efforts. You want to think about what your end goal is, ask a question that you think you might be able to achieve, and then focus your measurement around that question. Do some research, as I've been talking about. Make a hypothesis, which is a measurable idea, or as my son's character likes to say, an idea that you can test, and do some experiments around it. Make your analysis afterwards, and then form a conclusion. And this is really important at the end, to kind of pull together all your results so that you can learn and grow. So let's walk through each of those steps in a little more detail. First off, what is that SMART goal, that attainable goal? What are you hoping to achieve from this campaign, in other words? So an example of a good purpose at the beginning, a good question is, I want to increase traffic to my new landing page by 70% in the next 30 days. So here you can see that it's specific. I want to increase traffic. It's measurable. It's by 70%, and it's timely, within 30 days. And is this something that's attainable for you? Is 70% a number that you've seen before, or is it outrageous? That's something that you'll have to look at by testing your own data. And so I promise we're going to get to the profit part as we move on to build out this sample goal. So now it's time to do some research, and you want to verify that those goals are attainable, just as I was mentioning. what are your best social avenues? Have you had luck with certain ones over the other? And then depending upon that, so perhaps depending on your business, your customers are more active in LinkedIn, or maybe if you're business to consumer, your customers are more active in Facebook. And in some cases, customers are more active in Twitter, or in very visual places, like I was talking about with the Anthropology brand, they do their best job on Instagram. So say you decide you've picked Facebook, that's where your consumers are, so you decide that you're making it more specific with, I want to run a Facebook contest to increase traffic to my new landing page by 70% in the next 30 days. So now start picking the keywords that you've found through your persona research and finding things that'll resonate with them. Start building out the campaign, what imagery will grab the persona. Start pulling together all this information so you can design. And now it's time to pull together your hypothesis. So this is where you're starting to think about the result that's going to meet your goals. So this, as I mentioned, a hypothesis is an idea that you can test, and it really aligns perfectly with SMART goals in that sense. It's what everything is measured against. All of your efforts are measuring against this hypothesis. It's essentially your key performance indicator, or KPI, as we like to call them, and make sure that you tie it to a business objective. So if you want to report how your social media is affecting your profits, you should take a specific event that you can measure against profits. So one common way for marketing is to measure against leads, because once you get to the sales point, you've probably lost as part of the influence against that. If you have a sales team, you're not going to be able to fully influence those sales decisions. But what you can do is you can go back into your data and see how often a lead turns to a sale, and then what is that sale worth. And so you can take, by working process of deduction, how much a lead is worth to you by knowing how many leads you can get for your sale. So now you've taken your goal and you've added that measurable result to the end of it. And so now it's time to start experimenting. And I'm a big fan of A/B testing, making sure that when in digital marketing, as I mentioned, we want to see the data. So run some multivariate tests, even if it's something as simple. If you're running a Facebook post and you don't have a lot of time, just switch around the words a little bit. Perhaps try using quotes from the post that you're promoting along with the headline, and see which is resonating better. Do they want to see a piece of information, or do they want to just, quick and to the point, send the headline? Maybe change the colors a little bit, play with what words you're starting with, but make sure you're only running 2 tests at once, just to really see that you can pick a clear winner. And now you go back and look at what you've done. And so this is a critical step if you want to move forward and improve and learn and grow, like I mentioned. And there's one of the ways that people have been starting to try and measure across social media platforms is by creating a common language. And one of the most frequently used ways to do that is by having applause for your pluses, your favorites, your likes, amplification for social shares, conversations for comments, threads, etc., and then measuring those all in a tool that works for you. And like I mentioned, there are some free ones. Also, I'm a big fan of marketing automation and pulling all of your tools into one place, like HubSpot. And then pull together your conclusion. So this is how you're going to be able to go back to your boss, or if you are the boss, have all of your ideas in one place, and you can report the positive and negative outcomes, and you'll have a place to move forward from for your next objective. What did you do well? What could you do better? And it just will help you be organized and start getting a process in place so that you're not scattering social media efforts all over. I have in this resource, I put links to some other really good resources for setting KPIs. I'm not sure if the links will work, but if you just search these headlines afterwards, you will be able to, these will all come up at the beginning of the organic results for these headlines. And these are all really good results for setting more KPIs if you need some better ideas or direction for doing that. I especially recommend AimClear, who does a really good job with social media. And so now it's time to take it up a notch. Once you've got organic down and you've got a method down for tracking your efforts, you're really going to be able to take your social media to the next level by paying to play, which is one of the common things you'll hear people talking about when they're talking about social media. And one of the biggest benefits is even beyond profit. What we're talking about is there's those social indicators in search engine results. So even beyond just showing the having extra interaction on your social profiles, and when people come to your social profiles, they'll see that you're popular or whatever, those intangible benefits that we've been talking about. There's so many more values to boosting your social media efforts to the next level. Those social indicators there's no differentiation between the paid interactions and the organic ones because they all look the same at the end. And the lines are starting to blur with this. We're seeing a convergence. I think I saw Ryan Stewart's presentation talk about the paid, owned, and earned sections of media. And they're really starting to come together. As I mentioned, there's not a lot of differentiation at the end. If you boosted your post to get more likes, they still chose to give you more likes. Even if you're paying to get it in front of more people and a targeted group of people, it's still in the end their choice to like it. So those lines really are starting to blur. And the options are growing. They're starting to open up Instagram to more advertisers. It's not just big brands anymore. And Pinterest is a great place to promote. And so all of these places that were, as these social media platforms are getting older and more established, they're opening up advertising options for everybody. And there's such an inexpensive way to boost your efforts just a little bit. So PPC in traditional PPC on Google or Bing or Yahoo or whatever your ideal browser is can get really expensive to pay for a click, and paying for a lead can get even more expensive. So social media can be a really easy way to break into testing out with paid that has low barriers to entry and is less expensive. And the nice thing is you have those visible results at the end that you hold on to almost like a takeaway. And so these are some of the options for promoting on Facebook. And look right here, you can see these are tying to measurable results that help your profit. You can put in tracking into Facebook ads directly to increase conversions to your website, and just by setting it up the right way. And you can get optimize for getting people to claim your offer is another one. So while you can have benefit of boosting your posts or promoting your page or sending people to your website or some of those more intangible benefits that I've been talking about, you can get these profit building results just by running a few ads. And you can get really specific. So remember how we built out those specific persona information based on their location and their age and their gender, their relationship, how many kids they have, where they like to spend their time, what they're interested in. You can target all of that within Facebook. Facebook's so powerful because think of how much we share on our social profiles. We're sharing our life on there. And so they really have access to everything that people are doing. And so all of that hard work you put into building out your personas, you can build a targeted, reusable audience for each of your personas, and just it'll save you a lot of time. You can save it as a custom audience in your profile and just click it, and you don't have to keep filling out that information each time. So you're targeting your persona. Just be careful when you're doing that not to run 2 ads concurrently, because you'll be bidding against yourself and ending up to pay a little more. So if you're going to run ads at the same time, just make sure you're targeting different audiences. And some of the other things, you can target their interests, what TV show, what behaviors, what kind of devices are they using, what pages do they connect with, and you can even remarket to them with a Facebook pixel. So it's very, very powerful, and the cost per click, I've gotten them down to 1 or 2 cents per click or interaction on the ad. And so, as I mentioned, if you're not familiar, Instagram is owned by Facebook, so they've just started adding this in. It's new, and you can use all of those same things that we just talked about and target your Instagram followers, or use your Instagram profile as well. So a lot of power in Instagram advertising now too. With Twitter, if Twitter's great for B2B and also for some B2C, it depends on the market that you're in. But the really cool thing about Twitter, along with Instagram, is you can target hashtags and conversations, which is one of the values organically of Twitter as well. You can also set up your ads for the followers of an influencer. So if perhaps, say you're a bagel company and you have another bagel company down the street that does a really good job with their social media, they have a lot of active followers, you could target all of their followers with your ad, so that the people who are already engaging and showing that they like bagels will see your ad. And you can also set up Twitter cards, which directly tie to a conversion, a metric that's important to you. Right in the ad, there's a link in there that says click this, and it's very specific. And there's some more information that I added. And again, I did it as a link, and so I can add it as a at the end, send it out if that's easier. So for LinkedIn, which is another one where if you're looking for someone based on their job, so really think about, while you can target a person's job title in Facebook, if you are again, kind of B2B type of marketer, if you're looking for someone who's going to be using the product at work, LinkedIn can be a great place to feed ads. You can do sponsored updates so that it shows up in part of the feed, or you can have it as a right-hand ad, and you can do text, image, or video with LinkedIn. And that's a great space where you can get in front of them when they're already thinking about business. So it might feel a little bit interruptive to talk about business platforms when you're advertising on Facebook, whereas it's much more natural in LinkedIn. That's what they're there for. So always valuable to think about all of those dynamics when you're thinking about where you're going to engage in different social media platforms. So for all paid platforms, just to sum it up, make sure that you're tying that campaign to that profit-driving goal. What is your end result? So walk through that scientific method and think about what your end goal is, and set a SMART goal, a specific, measurable goal that you can tie it to. And then tie it to that bottom line. So make sure that you're relying on the data for your decisions, and you're tying your goals to measurable business objectives. But remember to account for those intangible benefits. I don't want you to walk away from this thinking that the only benefit of social media is tying it to profit. And while I think that's very valuable, because when you're going to your boss and saying, hey, I've increased our website by 10,000 followers, they might get excited and see the value in that. But if you're looking to really show them how you're helping the business, you're going to get a lot further by showing how you're helping with profit, because in the end, that's what a business is for. That's why they're in business. And so I think that social media is a lot like graphic design in that it's hard to specifically measure. It's hard to set those SMART goals sometimes that are showing the benefit. And so if you can take all of the chances that you have to do it, you'll have much more power in showing the value of your effort. And so don't discount that power of paid. With just small budgets per week, really, even $10 US or 15 euro can really make a huge difference. And especially when you're thinking of those small increments per click or per engagement, think of the power of that once you get them to your website. So with that, I just want to say thank you for having me and open it up for any questions that you have about what I talked about today.
Guys, do we have any questions? Can you read it out loud?
Yes. So the question is, do you have 5 tips to start a good Facebook advertising campaign?
5 tips. Yeah.
Okay, 5. I would say 1, make sure you've done the persona research. That's always going to be my number 1, because then you can get the language that's going to resonate the best. Number 2, pick a couple images to work with. So you can, Facebook allows you right in the campaign when you're setting it up to set up a couple images. And so you can very simply, without having to spend a lot of extra time or effort, they offer free access to Shutterstock, which is what a lot of businesses pay to have access for, so that when they're building different graphics for their website. So that's a really nice, easy way. You can change it up a little bit and test what works better. What if you wanted to do a little bit of an edgier image. And the nice thing about the ads is it doesn't live forever like boosting a post does. So you can test something that's a little edgier and it's not staying on your page. Number 3 would be for whatever reason, Facebook makes it tricky. You can't have text in your images. So you can only have text in one of the quadrants, which you can highlight over it and it'll show you the grid. But I'm not really sure exactly why they do it. They're trying to get you from kind of getting around the system of character limits. So make sure that you're thinking about that when you upload the images, because you don't want to do all the work of setting up your ad and then have the image get dinged for having text in it. Number 4 would be, as I mentioned, to A/B test. So I've found, depending on the audience, sometimes quotes work the best. Sometimes something really meaningful works the best. But also when you fill in your headline, you have a really short limit. So format the top part as someone would format a Facebook post. And number 5, don't be afraid to be a little more emotion-based with your Facebook posts. As we talked about, this is a place where people are engaging socially, and so it's a place where they're comfortable to be emotional. So you can be more edgy and personal and emotional in that space, whereas you might not get away with that on LinkedIn.
Yeah, there is another question about boring industry by Abbas.
Okay. How do you market products or services on social media for a boring industry? This is a question that I've seen coming up a lot lately, actually. It's interesting. Pardon me, I have to cough again. So I've worked in healthcare, which is something that is a little more, there's more regulation on it, and maybe isn't quite as exciting. I've also worked with help devising package software tracking. So there's lots of different things that maybe sound kind of boring at the onset, but if you do your persona research, you'll see that there's things that resonate particularly with that market. So if you go into healthcare, which seems like it's very strict and rigid, actually nurses have a really unique personality that's specific to, they have a specific type of humor that's actually really kind of edgy for people who aren't in nursing. They'll make jokes about things that are a little more sensitive. And so while you have to think about it in a way that is still comfortable with your brand, there are ways you can get around it, again, with the package tracking software, which sounds like it could be really stale and, you know, boring. There's lots of ways you can get it to make it kind of a little more fun. I'm trying to think of something right off the cuff, but you know, talking about something that could happen, bloopers, can help just put a little more personality into it. Think about what would that person go home and talk to their spouse about happened in their day.
Thank you very much for everybody. Right. Thank you, Katy. Thank you, and goodbye.